What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is Hawk Talk on Melrose, second episode of the week. Felt like I just did one because I did like yesterday. Recording this on Wednesday night. We'll be out on Thursday when you guys are all listening to this. But what's going on, Tyler? Welcome back to the state of Iowa after being gone down in
Yeah.
Arizona and back to reality. But we got a game coming up here. We got to get ready for that.
Yeah, man. It obviously this week, you did that episode night or two ago, and I just I was busy doing some of my own stuff, and I was pretty dang tired from our trip in Phoenix, and I just kind of let you do your thing and kind of recap that Penn State game. But yeah, excited to be back on the pod for sure. Man, it's already tomorrow's already Thursday. For being gone as long as we were for Phoenix, it's like I thought this week would go pretty slow. And honestly, for me, I don't know about you, it's
It's
flying by already.
yeah, for me, it's going really fast. Like it's quite amazing that we're gearing up for another game this week, and
Yeah.
hopefully it's a little bit better than what we saw on Saturday. Obviously, you and I watched the game together, and
Yeah.
just horrible. And I think if people listening probably listened to our um, going into the game last week,
Yeah.
and pretty much what we said was we didn't really think Iowa was going to win. I think you had the final score like 24-10, maybe,
10.
and I
Yep.
had 31 to, or maybe I had like 30 or 31 to like 13 or something like that is what my final score prediction was. So both of us were like, yeah, we don't expect to win. We don't really think we will. Now, as fans, like deep down, we're like hoping we're wrong, and we still have a little bit of sense of confidence, but pretty much what we said was as long as we just keep it sort of competitive and not get embarrassed, that's a win for us. And unfortunately, none of that happened. It was honestly worse than what I thought would be like the ultimate embarrassment, because I thought like the only way I felt like the only embarrassment would be like losing like 50-14. Well, at that point, you're at least putting up some points and you're not a national embarrassment and a laughing stock. No, we went to like an ultimate low of
Yeah.
not even, what was it, 4 first downs, 70 some yards till, I mean, that's more embarrassing than getting blown out like 50-14, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, I think you just said it there. It's almost like we did it to ourselves, right? It's not that Penn State necessarily blew us out. We we allowed them to dictate that entire game. We didn't
Yeah.
do anything correct on offense. Um, turnovers, 4 turnovers, can't have it, right? What did we say going into the game? Obviously, you're gonna have to try to play clean football. It's hard when it's rainy and you're on the road in a tough environment. I get that, but 4 turnovers, they can't happen.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Um, you have the same amount. I think it's the same amount of turnovers as first downs. I don't know if I've ever even heard that stat in my entire life in a football game, to be honest with you. Unless someone has like 10 turnovers, which I don't even know if it's possible, but we find new ways to shoot ourselves in the foot, to say the least. I think the thing we kind of were talking about after that game, or at least during it, I know for sure, is we're like, well, here's another game, another big game where we just literally, there's nothing to enjoy about this game, right? There was nothing on offense where
No.
you could say, well, at least we got that going, or at least we did this, or hey, we scored 14, we put up a couple touchdowns, like you were kind of just hinting at, like
Yeah.
putting up having some sort of success. And I think besides the first third down conversion on the very first drive, there wasn't much else to cheer about. I'm not gonna lie, it was tough, it was brutal.
Yeah, and for me, like for how kind of like the easy the schedule now comes, like if we would have like even if we would have just like put up 200 yards of total offense and maybe scored one or two times, like I would
Yeah,
not be feeling that bad, because it's like, oh well, yeah, it's not great, but it's also that's the toughest defense we'll face, toughest
right,
environment, so it's like, okay, whatever, move on.
right.
But it's hard to do that when it's like that bad.
Yeah,
And for me, like I'm more disappointed and more just frustrated because this year compared to last year is we actually have the talent. Last year, you could make the case, yeah, it was bad, but it was
yeah,
also, we didn't have a great quarterback. We didn't have any wide receivers because they all transferred out, and one of them was hurt the entire year, Keegan Johnson. Um, and then our offensive line was young. Like, you had excuses last year. This year, you don't have any of that. You actually, I mean, the only semi excuse that you could use is like Luke Lachey, your best target's out and your quarterback's half injured. Like that'd be the only excuse. But other than that, like you still have a capable of quarterback and you still have the playmakers and your offensive line should be a little bit better. It's more experienced. Clearly it doesn't look that way, but that's the reason why I'm just more frustrated because like this is a year that like, it's like, how are we?
Yeah, this is the year it wasn't supposed to be like last year, right? What'd we say? At least I've said it on this podcast multiple times. I said Brian's out of excuses in my book. You have the players that you want now. You've upgraded where you felt like you needed to upgrade the most. Quarterback, wide receiver.
Yep.
And offensively speaking, of course, I'm talking about through the transfer portal, and we did that. And we play another tough team, and it's the same result, if not worse. So what's changed, really? I mean, when you really think about it offensively, what's really changed? Like, we're still terrible. You showed the stats on the recap podcast of the Penn State game. Like,
horrible.
It's similar, if not worse than last year.
Yeah,
it's very frustrating.
I want to pull up. I saw it on Twitter actually today, and I should have bookmarked it. Spencer Petrus's stats compared to.
Well, I was just gonna say
Cade McNamara.
You know who's looking real? You know who's probably really happy right now or looking good? Spencer Petrus.
Well, yeah, because I think at the end of the day, it's actually like, well, like here. So the first 4 games under Spencer Petrus last year, 51% completions, 524 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Cade, 51%, 459 yards. So actually almost 100 yards less, more than 100 yards less. 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. So the only thing going for Cade is he has 3 more touchdowns through 4 games. So pretty much, I guess I owe an apology to Spencer Petrus because clearly it really wasn't his fault. I mean, yeah, he still wasn't that great of a quarterback. Don't get me wrong, but clearly it's the system. I mean, because you look at Cade's numbers and it's not good. And when you really think about it, it's almost kind of not fair to Spencer because everybody bashed Spencer and no one's really bashing Cade. Like everyone's kind of giving Cade the like benefit of the doubt. And it's like, well, you almost have worse stats than Spencer Petrus did. So we should be getting on you. We should be booing you like we did with Spencer Petrus last year. I'm not saying that, but
no. And I'll own up to it. You know, I think it was easy for us to bash Spencer last year when things weren't going right. You know, we blame Brian. We did a lot, and I know a lot of people in the national media did too. But we looked at some of the opportunities that Spencer had with some of those plays, and we said, "Oh, he still can't complete it. He's still, in the pocket. He's still not doing what he's supposed to do, even when there's a play there." Well, now we get this guy that's kind of a proven winner, right? He's gone out. He's won at Michigan. He's brought him to a playoff, and he's looking pretty much worse than Spencer last year. And we're kind of giving him a pass because I think it's just kind of like, well, now we know, right? Now we know it's Brian. Now we know it's the scheme, the system. It's not working. This is the, I don't know. I'm not, like I said, I'll never claim to be an offensive coordinator and know what the right answer is, but I know what the wrong answer is, and that's Brian Ferentz as an offensive coordinator / quarterbacks coach.
Yep,
and that's working.
And it's Kirk too. It's Kirk.
Yeah. He's enabling the situation by allowing his son to continue to call and act like I think you brought it up. It's like they just don't care. It's like they tune all of it out. It's the Iowa way. We just keep going about our business. Well, it's gonna be tough to get wide receivers to come to Iowa. I mean, it really is.
And we're going to talk about the wide receivers here soon. I really thought when Brian got hired as OC, I honestly at the time wasn't too mad about it because I'm like, okay, maybe with his dad being the head guy, maybe the son can talk him into some things, right? It's just like anything, you can have a legit conversation with your dad, kind of with even like added BS, like what the hell, but you can't really do that with a boss. So I really thought like, okay, maybe Brian will maybe we'll get his dad to finally change some things. And clearly he has no say.
Younger guy with, you think there's
a younger guy.
New life in there, but no.
And obviously with his, Kirk, it's the same old because it's been this way since essentially since he started, you had Ken O'Keefe, you had Greg Davis, and then, Brian. So at the end of the day, it's been all three. And I was listening to John Miller and Chris Williams today, and John made just a really good point that, whoever the next AD is at Iowa, which it sounds like it's going to be Beth Goetz, and like John said, hopefully she is. And I agree. I think everything she's done so far, it's been great. But if she gets hired full time, or, full time, it'll probably be Q1 of next year, like 2024, maybe in January, February. And that's when the football season will be over with. So her first like big move will be this whole situation of what are you going to do? And this is why like John Miller thinks that like this is Brian's last year for sure, because that's just going to make people, I mean, that's her first move is keeping Brian. You know how bad that's going to look. And like John said, there's going to be a lot of big donors that will just be done if that's the case. And then he brought up like, okay, then at that point, what does Kirk do? And that's why John thinks Kirk's going to retire at the end of the year, because it's going to be one of those things where he's not going to want that to happen, where he's like, Brian's done. And then Chris made a point. Chris is like, well, then he's probably going to say to Beth, well, then I'm done then. And John's like, well, then at that point, it's like, you've done a great things at Iowa, but if that's the case, then yeah, you're done. You retire. We go find someone else. And I don't, like I said, like it sucks because I'm in this, like, I don't know, like the back of my head.
Yeah.
It's like,
I'm worried that, like, it's almost too easy of an answer to be like, okay, bye Kirk. Because we've had, sometimes the grass isn't always greener, right? When you get a new coach. And so I get a little nervous about that too, but I don't want to keep seeing Brian as the offensive coordinator. That's my personal opinion on that.
Yeah. And I just don't think Kirk is willing or wanting to do anything about it. And I'm just to the point. I agree with both of them. Like the writing is almost on the wall. Like you can almost just see the end in sight of this whole era of having Kirk. And it sucks. It's unfortunate that it might come down to this of, this was kind of his legacy is going to be really good, but it's going to be tarnished a little bit by this whole situation of keeping your son and getting this bad. Cause it is going down. So,
oh my God,
not even like
we're terrible on offense. We're that bad.
It's gotten so bad, and it just seems like it keeps getting worse and worse. And it's going to suck because when Kirk does retire, hopefully he can go out with a bang, but unfortunately the way it's looking, it might not do that. And it sucks because I think people are going to remember him for that versus remembering of how good he actually was at Iowa and what all the success that he brought and some of the great times. I mean, I love Kirk, but if he keeps doubling down on this type of stuff and being stubborn about it, my biggest take is like, I hate how, like after the Penn State game press conference, he instantly blames, he kind of blames the offense, but then he blames the defense. He
blames the defense. Yeah.
And yesterday he
we couldn't score, but we also couldn't stop anybody. It's like, really, dude? Really?
Yesterday he takes blame at, or he doesn't really take blame. He talks about the offensive line coach. He talks about how good he's been doing and how great of a person he is. It's like, there's just no accountability. I know I said this last year a lot on this podcast. There's no accountability. No coach will take any blame. There's no like, this is, we got to get better. Like it's just everything's fine and dandy. And
move on to the next week.
It's very, very, very frustrating. And I don't know. I'm just saying this, like if he's unwilling to change, if he's not wanting to change, then maybe it is time to do something different, because man, we're entering a new era come next year, Big Ten football. It's only going to get tougher.
Yeah.
You have some really good teams that are coming in, and I'm sorry, but the gap is not, the gap is getting wider and wider with us competing against the big boys. It used to be every time we played a tough Big Ten team, it was always close back in the day, or it was always like we would win. You talk like some of those Penn State games, some of those Michigan games, Ohio State in 2017, in 2011, 2013, we would always compete against the big boys. And then, we would lose then against a really shitty team. It's always like the Kirk Ferentz special, but we would always play tough against the big boys, and we would sometimes win. Now it literally seems every time we play Michigan, a Penn State, a Ohio State, some of those big teams, it's game over. We're going to get blown out. And it's getting worse and worse. And I'm just afraid that if we just keep going down this path and we do nothing about it, next year we're going to be playing USC, we're going to be playing Oregons, the Washingtons, along with then still the Michigans and stuff. It's going to get bad if we don't do something about it.
Well, you made an excellent point, and this is a big year to get it right for Beth. It's like, or whoever that AD is, obviously. You're going into a year next year where, you really think that if Iowa played Washington this year, when they're dropping 50 some a game, that we're going to be competitive? Like, come on. Our defense is good, but my God, what do you expect our team to do in that situation? I mean, it's and that's what I'm fearful of. And I guess if that means like Kirk's, doubling down, it's like, no, he's going to be the offensive coordinator, then I mean, I love you, but you're not going to win with this type of offense. Yeah. You're not going to, not in this day and age of college football. You're not going to.
I just think Kirk is so stubborn. I think he thinks his system of, the way, which we've won a lot of games.
Yeah. Defense and special teams. Yeah. That is fine, but you can't have a dead last offense. Right? Yeah. You can't.
I just can't believe
it's never been this bad. Right.
Yeah. No,
it's been mediocre, average, and we can get away with it when it's average. That's all we've been saying for the last 2 years. Let's have an average offense. We are bottom of the barrel, and you're seeing what happens. You can get away with it against Utah State, Western Michigan, Iowa State this year. You're not getting away with it against Penn State, and you saw that.
Yeah, and I just think like with Kirk I don't know, he just is on, which I don't understand, because it's like, how does he not just say to himself, like, man, like with our defense, with our special teams, like we could have some fun, boys. Like all it takes is let's bring in, and I said this on the podcast that I made by myself a couple of days ago. The problem lies that we have no coaching or coaches on the offensive side of the ball that knows what the hell they are doing when it comes to scheming against defenses, making adjustments. I mean, if you think about this, second half of games, it seems like we always suck, like on offense. Why? Because we do not know how to make adjustments at half. We don't know how to scheme against defenses. We don't have an offensive-minded coach. Yeah. We have a guy that played O-line. That's where he should be at. We got a guy that is coaching quarterbacks, even though he wasn't O-line.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. We have a head coach that clearly is stuck in his ways and thinks his system works, even though it is 1980 style, and we're in 21st century now, and those things do not work. And it's a huge problem.
Well, and I was just going to mention this. So here's a great example of a guy being kind of that offensive minded head coach that you were just talking about. Washington, speaking of Washington's head coach, Kalen DeBoer, you know where he coached at before Washington? So he started out at Sioux Falls. Then he moves his way up to Fresno State. Then he takes like a year as an offensive coordinator for Indiana Hoosiers, the year of Michael Penix and that Hoosier team during the COVID year when they were actually really good. Becomes a Washington head coach, gets to recruit Michael Penix because he'd already been his offensive coordinator there, and look what's happening.
Yep.
Like you just mentioned it. It doesn't have to be the offensive coordinator from freaking USC. The guy was at Fresno State. There's guys out there that are smart offensive guys, no matter the level, like you mentioned, like whatever the conference is, MAC, some of these are smaller schools, or even, a bigger FBS school, but it's out there. You just have to be willing to accept it. And for whatever reason, we haven't been able to do that yet.
Yeah. The other that you brought up a good point. And like the other night when I was talking, I mentioned, Wisconsin and how, they fire Paul Chryst and, he's won a lot of games. He's similar to Kirk, like won a lot of games. But then last year they kind of saw the writing on the wall. They kind of saw like, wow, like this is not the way we really want to do things. And it's just going to get tougher and tougher. And what do? They fire him. Everyone thought Jim Leonard, who was going to make it, and that would have been an easy hire for them. I don't know if it would have been a really, really good hire, but it would have been an easy hire. But no, They are like, no, we are going out of the box, and we're going to go get this guy in Luke Fickell, a really good coach who's gone to the playoffs with Cincinnati, brought us up. Not, I wouldn't say a terrible program. Cincinnati's always been pretty decent, but he's really elevated them. We're going to go out and get him. He comes in and they totally like revamp, air raid. We're going to bring in this new offensive coordinator. We're going to go out and get the SMU quarterback, and we're going to completely change things up. Might not be pretty right away, but we're looking long-term.
They might take one step back in that first year to hopefully take 2 steps forward come a few years from now, right? That's the long-term plan. And, I just wish I'd see that obviously from Iowa too.
Yeah. I think like Wisconsin's like, in my opinion right now, and maybe I'm getting too far ahead of myself because it was one game and it was so bad, but it almost feels like, Wisconsin is going like forward and we're almost going backwards. And that's not a good thing to do with how much harder the Big Ten is going to be come like next year. And for me, dude, like this was a year to prove it with getting the transfer guys, because I am deeply afraid if this continues this year, unless things continue to change, we are it's going to be one of those things where it's like, number one, how do we keep any of these guys hopefully to stay, like Seth Anderson, Caleb Brown, but no one's going to come. I mean, the only reason why I think we got these guys this year is because we finally, we go out and get Cade and we get this lie, and I'm sure they got kind of lied too of like, oh yeah, this, it's going to be great. It's going to be so much different. You got Cade going on podcast saying, if you call this the shittiest offense, like just wait, you had all this gaslighting and it was like, oh my God, this is going to be great. We're, that's probably the reason why they got, they were able to get Caleb Brown was, things are going to be different this year. All these years of shittiness, like it's going to be different. And it's all the same. And like, how are you going to be able to next year?
I think the only way is if Brian is gone. I really believe that. I really believe that's your only hope. But I agree. It's still Kirk. If he's still there, what is going to really happen? I don't know.
So John Miller brought up this stat today, and I was like, oh my God. So Navy right now is 6.3 targets per game that they throw to a wide receiver. Air Force 1.8 targets per game. Iowa is a little ahead of both of them, but it should be way ahead because those two schools run the triple option. 7.8 targets. So these aren't catches, targets per game. That's like 2 targets per half or per quarter.
Yeah.
And like John Miller said, there's probably 25 teams out there that probably do 7.8 per quarter. And I'm sure there probably is. I mean, I almost guarantee you there are probably more than 25 teams that probably target wide receivers 7 or more per quarter. And how do you look at that? Like, how does any wide receiver look at that and say, I'm going to go to Iowa? Like that. Oh yeah, we're going to Iowa. And this was the year to do it. This was the year to prove like, okay, we finally got these guys. We're going to prove it, because if we could prove it this year, then it's going to be a lot easier to get some of these guys. I honestly think it's going to get even harder now, because you did act like things were going to change. You did bring in these guys. I think it's going to get even harder, unless, like you said, we do make, offensive coordinator is gone and there's some, changes. Maybe then it would get a little easier.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just think like clearly the scheme doesn't work right now. Teams have figured it out. It's pretty simple stuff. You stop the run and we can't throw to a wide receiver. Like that's like what you brought it up. We have 14 catches for wide receivers and Navy has 27. At what point can you say, yeah, it's time to change? Like, if you can't do it now, it's and like that's the thing. Like we can get away with it against Northwestern. We can get away with it against maybe Rutgers. I don't know. Rutgers actually has decent offense. It's just like, I agree with you. I think our schedule sets up for us to still win the Big Ten West. But I think that Wisconsin game is going to be very, very hard now, because it's still going to be such a tough atmosphere, tough game. Like I know Wisconsin isn't maybe at their best right now, but my God, that's going to be so hard. And then even if we do make it, what gives me confidence that I'm going to say, all right, we're going to be competitive against Penn State. Well, we weren't competitive, I'm
almost like, unless something big changes throughout the next couple weeks or month or two. I'm
Unless
to the point where I almost don't.
like, we're just opening it up, but nothing. Like I'm not gonna do that to myself. Like I'm not gonna sit here and all of a sudden, because I need to see it. You have to see it first.
Yeah, I'm to the point where I don't even want to go to the Big Ten championship game because we already know the outcome.
Yeah.
We're going to lose because it's just the face, and it's not us being negative. I mean, it's been a trend now ever since we beat Penn State in 2021. Ever since that game, it has just gone so far downhill. We get blown out by these big schools or these big teams. What makes me think that, like, yeah, if we made to the Big Ten championship game, what makes me think that, like, we would keep it close against Ohio State, Penn State, or Michigan? Like, it's not going to happen. I mean, if we would have made to the Big Ten championship game last year, all we had to do is beat Nebraska. Guarantee we would have got blown out against Michigan in the Big Ten championship game. Like, not even a question. And like that game, yeah, it's to the point where it's like, do I even want to go? I'm to the point where I'd rather go 8-4, and have a good offense than go 10-2 and just want to stab my eyes every single game because it's so horrific to watch. I honestly rather have it the other way. Like, I remember 2021, we went 10-2, but we were so bad on offense, and it was just so hard to watch that. It felt like it was a 7-5 season. It didn't even feel like a 10-win season. No. I'd rather go 8-4 in just every single game. It's fun to watch. Even if we do lose, it sucks, but like, I'd rather have that than go 10-2 and just.
And that's what I was going to say, coming next year and starting with this new Big Ten, Collin, there's might be lucky to get to 8-4 with this offense coming real soon. That's all, I know that's down the road, but like, that's something that I think about. It's like, yeah, we can get away with it in the West right now. Come next year, like in the years after, like we're going to have a lot more tough games on the schedule. Yeah. Those 4 teams that are coming are so good. Like, just look at what their records are this year. So,
besides UCLA, the only one that, but they're always going to be like, UCLA is always going to be, but like out of all 3,
and recently UCLA hasn't been like bad.
No, they haven't. Chip Kelly's done a decent job.
Games night, so like they're very formidable. I know. We can go on and on with it. I just think, I'm done like listening to the coaches throughout the week or off season. Like, oh, it's no, until I see Brian on a different role at Iowa, or he's just gone. Like, I don't believe that anything's going to truly change. So,
and one last thing too, I'm getting tired, and I keep getting, I have to just stop with it, but I get so sick of like this offseason, last offseason, the offseason before, whatever, the constant like, oh, things are different, and it's almost like they literally lie to us, and
that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm done listening to what,
and then you sell out stadiums because of it, and it looks. I mean, then it's like, then this is what happens.
Is that only to sell out the stadium? Because I'm confused what's actually changing here. Like, I don't know.
The problem was, like, in this offseason is if we didn't get the transfers that we got, we wouldn't have sold out any games, because
that's true.
That was the only reason. But those transfers, almost, like, I guarantee you, they almost got lied to. Like, oh, we're changing, we're opening up the playbook, we're doing this. And then they get lied to, and then we get lied to, because then it's like, oh, all this is happening. And
honest question, is Caleb Brown a Hawkeye next year?
No, I mean, at this rate, no, and neither is Seth Anderson. At this rate, now, if we somehow we end up just saying fuck it, we are opening up the playbook, and I just don't see that happening, because it's Kirk, and like any other. And this is the problem: is we're so fortunate to have such a consistent program, but at the same time, Iowa fans, like, I don't know why we have to endure this, like, as the only program in the country that would allow this to happen. Like, of course we have to endure this. No other program would allow this to keep happening, where like offensive coordinator's horrible, Offensive line is horrible. Head coach won't take any accountability. Head coach won't do
Right.
anything about it. Like, we are legitimately the only program in the country that would do this. After 2021, it was like, okay, it was just 1 year. But okay, after that, though, it has been like 3 years now and nothing has changed. And we're the only program. So, yeah, you could say, we've been fortunate as Iowa fans. We've won a lot of games. It's been, we've had some fun moments. It's been consistently good compared to some programs. But at the same time, though, it's like, yeah, but we have to like endure this just horrific, like embarrassing on the offensive side, and we won't do anything about it. We won't like, it's not even like, we won't even like sort of change.
Yeah. Right. We won't even get rid of a coordinator when he's not doing his job. Like, if we're not getting rid of a coordinator, like this, yeah, like you said, this would never happen in another school. And if it did, they would get rid of the coordinator, a la Iowa State. Yeah, that's a good example. Another school that's in Iowa, they didn't play up to their expectations last year. What do? They kind of revamp the offense.
They get a new offensive line coach.
Now, again, you have to have the players to execute it. I get all that. But you, at least from a fan base, you can be like, okay, at least they're trying. At least they're doing something. Yeah, it's tough. Being an Iowa fan is pretty dang tough sometimes, because it's like you just we make it so difficult, and it really isn't that hard, in my opinion. At least to try something different. So
and you see programs around the country, maybe in the middle of the season they won't fire their coach, but what they'll do is they'll maybe give the offensive coordinator duties to maybe a different coach. Or like they'll come out saying like, yeah, we're gonna do this now. We're gonna and like, but like, we're not even willing to do that. Like, I would feel good right now I would feel the best if like we just like it came out that Brian Ferentz is done, like, obviously, but that's never gonna happen. But like, I would feel good if like Kirk came out and said, we're handing the play calling duties to LeVar Woods. Now, would things change? Maybe not, but it at least gives like a sense to the fans and maybe to even the players, like, hey, this isn't working. We're just going to try something different. And it might be the same, but like, at least we are trying something different here. We're going to bring in a new life and just see if something changes, like just something like that. But it won't happen with Iowa. We're just like, we're so stuck in our ways. And unfortunately, and this is why, like, hopefully when Beth gets, a full-time gig and, her first decision, I hope she's not like Gary and gets sucked into Kirk Ferentz's power almost. It's like, you gotta be the, you gotta make sure you stand firm and you tell him, and you do because at the end of the day, it's your decision, and you can't let Kirk's power. Cause I just feel like that's what happened with Gary, is like, it almost felt like Kirk was ahead of, like, a step up from Gary. And it's like, no, it's not that way.
Yeah. I 100% agree. I just think, if she becomes AD, she's got to make a change. 100%. You, like you said, you want to keep the fan base, you want to keep selling out home games. You want to keep having those donors donate. Like, that's something that I think is step number one for her when she takes over full time. I 100% agree with that. Now, we're only 4 weeks into the season, and I know it's only one game. Yeah. And we have been, fortunate as Iowa fans to, have pretty good teams and good seasons. It's just when you see games like that and you see how bad we were on one side of the ball, it's just
sucks.
It just never gets, like, it's always the same, like, thing. It's like, it never gets old. Like, it's just,
like I said, I'd rather lose 50-14, but at least put 100%. Up some points and make it.
If you're going to give up 30, can we at least score 10, 20, 50, like 13? Like, come on.
Like that game that we watched that game together, and like, maybe besides of maybe the first 5 minutes when like it actually, maybe cheered a little bit. Other than that,
down conversion, like, I literally, besides that first third down conversion, and then the second third down conversion until he obviously fumbled, was like the highlight of the night. And
or maybe Cade's like run is like, we're going,
right.
Other than that, it was nothing. And you can't blame the defense because they were out on the field for 97 or 98 plays. Anyone that's trying to blame the defense knows nothing about football, because it's like 45 minutes. Yeah. It's like, just stop. Because at the end of the day, even with how bad the offense is, 31 points, like it's a lot, but it's not anything crazy, you know?
Like, here's like I know this getting a little off topic, not really, but so like I saw a report today. It's like the Jets defenders are starting to resent their head coach because Zach Wilson isn't a very good quarterback and isn't, playing good. How does the defense not resent
With Iowa.
Kirk a little bit for keeping Brian in the same sort of defense and scheme year in and year out? Like,
See,
I
that's
don't
what
know. Like,
I don't get it either.
like, how do they want to be like, okay, yep, 90 some plays today, boys. We're on defense. Let's go. Like, come on.
Yep. And how does the offensive players keep stay motivated?
No,
Like I
wide
don't know.
receivers. The conversation is they're like how do wide receivers how are they motivated in practice to like want to go out there and practice knowing they're not going to get the ball in the game? That's a legitimate question. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how you're motivated. If you're Seth Anderson, Caleb Brown, Nico Reganey, I don't get it.
They would all those coaches or whatever would be really good sales reps because their pitch to them must be really good because I mean
I don't know what it is, man.
Yeah, it's just it's unbelievable. It really is.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
God, I was gonna say one more thing, but I totally forgot. I kind of lost my train of thought. But if I can remember it, I'll bring it up. But unfortunately, if we get into something else and it's like random.
Yeah.
What was it? I don't know. Well, we'll just move on to Michigan State then. Very short and sweet.
Yeah.
We're 12-point favorites, which kind of shows to you how bad Michigan State is because, after that shitty loss against Penn State, you would think we would only be, but, obviously Michigan State is not very good. And it would be really,
if this game
really
was
bad.
at Michigan State, I would be a little more nervous. I'm not even going to lie to you.
I would too.
Not to say that I'm afraid we're going to lose necessarily because I really think Michigan State is bad, but I don't think we're not 12-point favorites. There's no way.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy to see how we respond. Oh, that's what I was going to bring up. And maybe this is a good way. Yesterday, Cade's in the press conference. I thought it was interesting when someone asked him about the play calling and how he's like, well, I don't really have any say. It almost kind of just feel like I don't know. He just looked down. He just looked just like.
Yeah, for the first time, he kind of seemed not
a little
into it or.
Very kind of negative. And I just, it makes you wonder, like, God, are we to the point now where some of our players have just, they're just sick. They're just done. They're over it. They're just over how just terrible and how bad things are because of Brian and Kirk. Like, I don't know. It just makes you wonder. It makes you wonder, like, what's going on in the back of their mind. I mean, there's no way they can sit there and be like, at least, we're 3-1, things are going good. No, like what's going on in Caleb Brown's mind? Like, those are like things that I always think about. It's like, God, like, I wonder what they're thinking. If I'm thinking it, like, there's no way they aren't thinking it unless they truly don't really care. But there's no way because they're all competitive players. They want to be out there. They want to be making plays. And yeah, it's bad. But yeah, so this Michigan State game, like, how are we going to respond? Are we going to respond in a way kind of similar to the Northwestern game last year? After the Ohio State game, remember we got our butts kicked and we ended up not going to the Northwestern game because we were just like, we're done. Yeah. Like, this is stupid. And we actually come out and, like, offensively, and granted it was Northwestern, we actually had a pretty good day, despite, like I said, being Northwestern. Yeah. So is it going to be that? Is it going to be like we just come out with some, we're rejuiced and remotivated, or is that loss going to kind of just carry on? And it's such a young season that I think it's going to be the first, and I'm trying to say positive, and I'm hoping it is the first thing, but you just never know.
Yeah, you just never know. And I agree with you. I think the players are going to be motivated to try to prove people wrong. I mean, I think that's that's why they play the game, to, kind of prove the doubters wrong and hopefully, turn this thing around a little bit. But I don't feel good about our offense moving forward. Like, I just don't. No. Like, I've seen it in the first 3 games where, like, we were kind of missing on some stuff. And, Brian, still times where he didn't call a great game. And then all of a sudden, boom, you play that really good team and everything kind of comes to a head where you're exposed. You're just completely exposed. You can't get away with anything because they're a good team. And I'm not saying that's the case with Michigan State. Like, I do think we'll have some success. But do I expect the passing game to just look a lot better? Like, I don't. Like, I don't know. Like, until I see it, I can't go out there and be like, well, Cade's going to start, spreading it around. Like, it's just not, I'm not going to go there yet until I see it.
I think this
But
is
I
like
do think the players are motivated
to try to get
to
back.
fix it.
Yeah.
Obviously, yeah, they have to.
I think this might be like one of the biggest games for Kirk and Brian, just in terms of because of how bad it was last week. If it's another bad performance, think about how just draining that will be, not just for the fans, but for the players as well. I think this is a huge game to just like, let's get back on track. Let's gather some more happiness inside the program and for the fans. So yeah, it's a big game for that, I think. I don't know. And then one other thing I was going to say too is like last year, I remember the entire freaking year, I was like, every time our offense was on the field, like I never felt good. There was never a moment last year where I was like, okay, I'm actually like think that we might be able to go down the field. Like I never thought that. Like I'm to the point now this year, and it's only 4 games in where like every time the offense drives on the field, like I instantly think worst case scenario. I instantly think this is gonna be a 3-and-out, or this is gonna be a quick, like we're not gonna do anything. It really sucks because like I was really hoping going into this year that would not be the case. And I get it. Not every possession you're going to score. Not every possession is going to be good. But like most good offenses, you're at least like 50-50, where it's like, most drives, you at least go down the field. Even if you don't score, you put up some yards, you put up some points. For us, it's like we're now to the point again. And I know it's only really one game, but even like the Utah State game, the Western Michigan game, Iowa State game, there are, even those games where we put up some points, it's like, it was just like, jeez, this is bad.
Well, then your defense is out there for a long time, and look what happens. Give up 30 points. It's like, what do you expect? Or you give up some long plays or a big play here or there. They can't be perfect, not when they're playing that many snaps. So it all kind of, it affects the defense too, right? It does.
I so bad for this Michigan State game want to say like, oh, I think we're going to rebound and put up, upper 20s, but it's like until I see that, it's like it's very tough for me to do that. Now the over under I think is set at like 36 or something like that. I don't know. For me, like prediction wise, I don't think Michigan State's gonna score very much on our defense. I think it's gonna be. I don't know. As of right now, I'm gonna say until I see us actually like, hey, we're gonna be aggressive. We're gonna do things. I'd see it being like a 20-10 game as of right now. Hopefully it's different, but that's kind of where I'm looking at.
Yeah, I was looking at like 21 or 23, low 20s, right? Like you just said, to anywhere from 7 to 10, 13, something like that. I'll go a little different than the last game, pretty much the same. I'll go 21 to 10.
21 to 10.
I don't think Michigan State is going to score. I don't think they have the offense to do it. The offensive firepower. It's in Kinnick. But I just don't think that we're all of a sudden going to start proving people wrong and start throwing it around the yard. I don't see it. So I hope I'm wrong. Hope we're dead wrong about that.
Yeah, I hope that we come out and because at the end of the day, like I said this on the podcast a couple days ago and by myself, I said I don't want to be negative. Like I want to be able to.
We should score a decent amount of points on this deep. Like they're not very good on offense or defense, but I just feel like our own offense prevents us from doing that. We shoot ourselves in the foot, play calling, and it just I don't know.
So
I'm going to say it's going to continue, but I hope I'm wrong.
So the initial when we did the podcast before the season started, we did the game by game predictions, and for this Michigan State game, I had 30-14, which I think is very like that definitely can happen.
Doable.
Very doable. Penn State game, I had 27-13, and I think once again like if our offense was just a little bit better, I did not think that's what our offense was going to look like. I knew that it was going to be a struggle, but I thought, well, we should at least be able to put up 13 points or maybe even a garbage time points. No, and 27 was kind of spot on with the 31.
Yeah.
And then the Western Michigan game, I had 41-6 and we won 41-10. So far I've been sort of close. I mean, the
Fair,
Penn State game, the only one was just like, yeah, I thought our offense was going to be able to at least put up some points. I'm sorry that our offense, sucked.
Yep.
But I had 30-14 for this game, and I think that's pretty dang close. If I knew now, like I said, I would give less to Iowa, and I would also give less to Michigan State because Michigan State's in I think today they officially fired Mel Tucker. Talk about a shit show in East Lansing, and
they're a dumpster fire.
I saw that like at this point now, they can transfer now. Any player can transfer. They won't lose eligible, or they won't lose like a year. So like you could maybe see some transfers in the next couple of weeks, or at least the next couple of days, and like that might impact. It's bad. I mean, it's
No, no, I agree. If we lose to this team, like
it's bad.
It's bad. Yep.
It's like, I was gonna say
full on panic mode. I'm kind of there with the offense, but like just in general, like if we lose, like I'm kind of like to the point where, you could start being like, okay, I'm okay with whatever happens next year, whoever's at the helm, right, running the show.
Even if we like win, but only win like let's say we won
I was just gonna say like
13-10.
It's a brutal game. It's back and forth. It comes down to the wire.
Almost feels like you're losing at that point.
Yeah.
So, I guess we'll see.
Wait and see. It's a night game. I mean, I'm excited for it. Obviously, like blackout game, night game. Like I haven't been to a night game, and I don't even know when. It's been a long time.
I was gonna say, because you didn't go to the one last year. 2021, we didn't have a night game.
No.
2020, we probably 2019 if we had one in 2019. I don't even know if we had one in 2019, but I mean, like I'm
excited.
I am too.
And I guess, like I said, the only, like I said this last year, but it's like the only thing is like, well, there's only one way to go, and that's up, right? On offense, it can't be any worse. So if we get anything that's better than what we saw last week or even some of the weeks before that, then obviously that'll be good. I really hope that we see some changes just with what we're doing, but
it's just it's such a young season that like if things don't, it's gonna be a long year.
Happen,
but yes, it can still.
That's what I'm concerned about, right?
Yep. But I'm with you. I'm excited for this game too. Night games are always special in Iowa City. NBC blackout, like it's gonna be fun, and hopefully we can come on this podcast on Sunday and we're feeling decent. It's like, okay, we rebounded, we looked a lot better.
You think the stadium will be full? Like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe is it too early to say that it wouldn't be like?
I think it will be. I think given it's a night game, given it was already sold out. So I mean, a lot of people kind of to the point where it's like, well, you're losing out on money if you buy these tickets and you don't go to it. So I think it's going to be full. Now, if we like somehow lost to Michigan State, I think the week after Purdue, that you'll start seeing probably less and less people in the stands. But I don't think people have given up yet.
No.
I know it's just one game and it was really bad, but like I'm like kind of saying, like I haven't given up hope yet. Now, you start talking a couple more games of this, then that's when people start losing hope. So, because like last year, it wasn't until probably like the Ohio State game when we got blown out, and that was like in middle of October. That's when people started losing hope, because that's when we lost hope. That's when we didn't go to the game the following week. We were like, we're done with this. This is horrible. So like that would be, I think, similar to this year. I think it would take a few more games for people to officially lose hope of the season. So I think it's going to be sold out. It should still be a really good environment. I'm just hoping that we can come out and look decent.
It's an enjoyable game, right?
Yeah, exactly. A fun, enjoyable game. Yeah. Can we just do that? Can we just walk in the Kinnick?
To score 40. Just can we do something that's like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. This is fun to watch. This is
exactly
doing their part.
Taking some shots down the field. And I know you listened to the episode I did by myself, but like I made like such a good point. You probably agreed. Like, when was the last time we did like a 5-yard slant to a wide receiver?
I don't know. We don't
like seriously. I don't like.
Don't.
The more I thought about it, I'm like, God, maybe I look dumb saying that because maybe we have done that a decent amount. I'm just forgetting. But like, I legitimately do not remember the last time we did like a 5 to 7 yard slant to a wide receiver.
No, and like you said, if we have, it hasn't been completed. I agree. I cannot remember a time where I saw a wide receiver catch a 5-yard slant.
And it's such an easy route. Like an under route.
Like a crossing route. to go for like 10 or 15 yards. Like I never see it.
No.
I don't know.
That's what I
don't
mean.
know-
Like, it's
I
just
don't
like
know
we
what-
we
I
make
gotta
it so
look at-
difficult.
I got to go back and watch like what we're actually running on offense.
I know one of these games,
I
I
don't
need it.
know.
One of these games, instead of like just watching like the quarterback and
Yeah.
offensive line,
Yeah.
I need to just watch the wide receivers go out on the routes and just see like some of the routes that they do, and just be like, wow, this is why they're not
I mean,
getting
like
open.
Kate said in his press conference, clearly, like we're not making it a priority. The way he sounds, like, well, yeah, I don't call the play. Like it must just be for like tight ends and running back. Like I don't know. We do not throw to the wide receiver position at Iowa. We have
And I
in
really-
2 years.
Yeah. And I really thought with Luke Lachey's injury, it's like that's going to be a priority again. But clearly so far, and it's only been, Luke got hurt first quarter of the Western Michigan game, but so far it's still not a priority. So it's like, what does it take? Does it take all the tight ends to get injured? Do we have to have that happen? I don't want that to happen, but does that have to happen to get the receivers more involved? Like at this point, like clearly, I don't know. But it's another week
Yeah.
without Caleb Johnson and
Yeah.
Jazz. Obviously without Luke. So like,
Yeah.
can we, like, is it that hard? Can we have a game where we instill some confidence into our wide receivers and they can walk out of Kinnick that night feeling pretty damn good about what they did because they caught a couple passes, maybe got a touchdown.
It's funny. It's like you lose those guys and you're like, oh, well, the wide receivers have to step up. And it's almost like we go the other way with it, right? It's like now we're not going to complete a ball at all. It's like,
Yeah.
wait, what? We gotta find a way, man. Gotta find a way. I like you said, I don't want to be negative on here all the time. Like I'm having flashbacks and PTSD to last year and I hate it. I want to come on here and just be positive.
Be
and
positive
talk about
and
the things that we did well. It's like,
yep.
got to get back to it.
Yeah. And like I think we would have been really positive even if we would have lost against Penn State, but kept it competitive or kept it close. But
we're not expecting a win in Happy Valley. I think as Iowa fan, like any realistic person knows that game was not probably
gonna happen.
Like we're
I
not
know
winning that game.
You and I did like a money line on Iowa, but for the shits and gigs, because it's like one of those
We had
things where it's
free
like,
bet.
well, yeah, it's like if you win, you win.
You win
But-
$100 some. But
Yeah. And we had someone in our group that kept like, wow, why would you do that? It's like, I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, do I think it's going to happen? No, but like, what if it does? And like, as a fan, I'm still going to have some sort of confidence because
Yeah.
I'm always going to have that.
we're a fan. We kind of sort of bet with our heart over our head sometimes, and that's the part of the fandom.
Yeah, exactly. So,
So,
well, that will do it for this episode. We'll be back on Sunday for an instant
hopefully-
reaction. Hopefully way more positive and we're
Yeah,
feeling
I'm
good.
hoping.
Because we still have a lot of season left and it would suck where every single episode is negative, because it gets draining. It sucks. People don't want to listen to it and I don't want to talk about it, so I'm just hoping we can get back on track. So that will do it for this episode. Thanks, Tyler. You have a good rest of your week.
Yep.
I'll see you on Saturday and thank you guys for listening
Yes,
and
sir.
go Hawks.